Hey everybody, it's Mike Shea from slyflourish.com and twitter.com/slyflourish, here with another episode of Sly Flourish's Lazy DM Prep. This is a weekly show broadcast live on Twitch at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, in which I use steps from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master while preparing for my D&D game. In this case, I am running the game Ghosts of Saltmarsh. This show is brought to you by the fine backers at Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/slyflourish, you too can be a supporter of Sly Flourish and help pay for all of the infrastructure to keep the website and the streams and all of the other stuff that required, all the other costs that are required to keep the Sly Flourish empire going. You can support Sly Flourish over there, and that will help out. Let's see. So I'm sorry, I'm running a little late today. It is 10:08. I was having computer problems, and it took a while for me to get my microphone to work, but my microphone is now working, I hope. So please, if you are in chat, tell me if everything is working out all right, and then I will know things are good. So in our Ghosts of Saltmarsh game last week, the characters had already, let's see, they had suffered a huge attack. They started to explore the caverns beneath Mr. Dory's house. And this was a trick. So I am moving the lair around. Well, no, what did they do? Did they go and find the caves? I can't remember. I think they examined the basement. They found the woman, Illendar Fireborn's daughter. And they then went out and located the caves, the ancient abolithic caves that exist beneath Saltmarsh, where an aboleth has become a follower, a priest of Tharizdun, and they learned this fact. So they started to make their way through the caves. I used a Dyson-ish map, and they found a dead aboleth who still had some a dead aboleth that still had some memories attached. So they learned some things. We can actually take a look. We'll take a look at our notes from last week. So here are last week's notes. So secrets, they found the meteorite. They found the dagger to pierce the world. They learned about I think they knew about the asylum. They learned about the tunnels beneath the ancient tunnels beneath the Styes. And they learned all of this. They learned a bunch of stuff. So they made their way through the caves. They fought a bunch of... This is one of those tricks where, like, I'm going to stealth my way in. I'll sneak in. And like, you sneak, and like, it's pitch black. I'll use light. It's like, okay, you're no longer sneaking. But I rolled a 22 on my stealth check. Not when you're holding a glowing coin in your hand. If you're holding a glowing coin in your hand, it doesn't matter if you roll a 35 on your stealth check. No one will hear you, but you're shining a big bright light through your whole area. And they were. So they got attacked by some sea spawn, and I think a couple of there were, or at least one or two, maybe it was just one, of the deep scions. So there's sort of an evolution of humanoid that is following this abolithic priest of Tharizdun. And it's like, normally you start off as a person, and then this is a good secret clue. Let's throw this as a secret clue. Secrets and clues. There's a progression as a follower of the aboleth priest of Tharizdun. And that progression is, we'll draw the progression. So you're like a pirate or to a thug. Your teeth start to fall out. You get scaly. You kind of want to get in the water a lot more, and eventually you become a sea spawn. Then if you're very lucky, you get sort of touched by Tharizdun, and you become a deep scion. And then you become a scum. And that's sort of the furthest evolution. Although I think, or maybe sometimes you become a Kraken priest. That's probably the highest evolution, is becoming a Kraken priest. Sometimes you become a giant octopus. So there's sort of this evolution as you become more aquatic. Your bones start to break apart. You become, you kind of turn into these things. And this is what happened. Like that. It's like the hierarchical order of devils. Yeah. Although I think Scum is probably parallel to Kraken Priest. So sometimes you become a Kraken Priest. Sometimes you end up as Scum. If you're very ancient, and probably, I think, actually, I take that back. I think you become a Deep Scion instead of a Scum. So Deep Scions can become Kraken Priest. So you can be, so if you're a very old sea spawn, you can, and you're not really that great at your job, but you're very old. You have some seniority. You've been in the job a while. You can promote to become a Scum. Otherwise, if you show some fortitude, and you're actually really good at this, you become a Deep Scion. And probably the Scum turns into a giant octopus. This is hard to show in parallel. So, you might go from pirate to thug to sea spawn to Scum to giant octopus, or you might become, instead of a Scum, a Deep Scion, a Kraken Priest, and a giant octopus. You sort of die and turn into a giant octopus, which is what happened to Mr. Dory. We'll just get rid of the Scum, turning into a giant octopus. That makes more sense. So that's sort of the hierarchy, and I'm probably gonna have another Kraken Priest on top of the other thing. So the characters went down. They learned about this stuff. They found out that there's these, million-year-old ruins beneath Saltmarsh. Sorry, beneath the Styes, and that it's tied to a much larger abolithic city, which is where the Endless Nadir is. And they are getting ready to fight and defeat this abolithic priest, whose name is Sogoth. What other? So we don't have to worry about the secrets right now, but that was kind of a secret, is what's the follower, the progression of the followers. So they fought a bunch of sea spawn, and they fought a Deep Scion who were alerted by the light. Now, there's a bunch of other sea spawn floating around in the water, swimming around in the water. There's probably a handful of other Deep Scions as well. But they're headed right in. The beginning of it is they're headed into Sogoth's sanctum. And that is what our strong start is going to be. This is the sanctum of the aboleth. So starting our lazy DM prep, we go through, we start by looking at the characters. And I don't know who's missing today. We don't have any added ones. We don't have anybody missing. We have Mac, the Goliath Grave Cleric. We have Bless, Sunspire, the Paladin of Procan. We have Skylar, the Aarakocra Storm Cleric. We have Corvel, the Human Fighter. We have Dave, the Triton Monk. And we have Thurvin, the half-sea elf storm sorcerer / storm. I don't know. He's got some other things. A lot of multi-classing going on. And they're all making their way into this cave. And we're heading right into a boss fight. Now, boss fights are interesting. So I subscribe to the philosophy that in almost all cases in D&D, it's better to kind of set up a situation and let the characters interact with the situation and then react to what they do. So I don't really build combat encounters one by one. I don't say like, now we're going to have that. And maybe I'm lying. Maybe I totally do this. And you guys who have seen me prepare these games and talked about the game say, you totally build encounters. But I don't think so. I will say, like on a strong start, that they're in Mr. Dory's place. A Deep Scion goes and screams out to everybody, and a bunch of sea spawn come pouring in. So that's kind of planning a battle. So I might plan one like in the beginning, especially if it's a strong start. And the other battle I will plan are boss fights. And today we're doing both, because they are fighting Sogoth, the abolithic priest. I need to, give me a sec. I've got some pictures I want to show, and I don't have you'd think I'd have a better method of, transferring pictures around than mailing them to myself, but I really don't. Because it's, man, I suck at this. Typing on. Oh my God, I'm terrible. Take your time, pics. I'll send actual size, the full 6 megabytes. Oh, I hope those pictures work. So, yeah, so setting up boss fights. Hey, look, they worked. Okay, I'll download, and we will download, and then we will open up downloads, And we will show in folder. And where is our, make sure I get the right window. There's the right window. Go boop, bang, boop, bang. So these are the boss fight I want to run. And Roger Twee says that 5e handles boss fights pretty well. Yeah, so there's an interesting, I'm noticing like an interesting sort of, differences of opinion. I think my window's not quite big enough. There we go. Differences of opinion about like how to handle sort of combat in 5e. I play loose. I think it's worth playing loose with combat. In other words, like just don't worry too much about environmental effects. I used to be all about like making sure you had this like stack of like 7 things. It was like the checklist for a good battle. And it was like monsters, environment, environmental effects, physical effects, like unique little doodads, tactics, waves of combat. There were all these sort of different factors that played in. And most of the time, I would say 90% of the time, I just let the story flow and I will make up fights as we go. And that's one of the reasons that I've been real big. And I've been talking about this on I actually did another stream. I'm going to mail some more pictures to myself because it's so much fun watching me type on a phone. As long as I can type carefully, get my own email address right. Pix2. So I have, over the past week or so, I kind of obsess about different things. And over the past week, I've been obsessing about making monster tokens. And the reason I like monster tokens is that they're dirt cheap to make. They are very flexible. You can use them for just about any fight. And they're really lightweight, and you can just keep them on hand. And then you're not worrying about minis. You're not, this whole section of the D&D empire, you don't have to worry about. Where you're just like, I've just got my tokens, and if I want to represent monsters on a table, I can just throw them on the table. You don't even need a grid. You can just throw them right on a bare table and kind of say, like, you're close to them, you're far away, whatever. I think it's nice to have good tokens for the characters, because the characters matter. Monsters don't matter, the characters matter. And so I like having tokens for characters or miniatures, nice miniatures. The more you want to do, the better. All of that is great. Let's see. Let's go back to my email here. Go to Pix2 so I can show these. And we will download all attachments. And then we go to the download folder. And it zipped it. I don't want them zipped. And you can't unzip. Extract all. There we go. Bang. 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 So these are the tokens I made. I'm going to do I'll probably do a whole other video, and I'm going to certainly do an article where I talk about making these tokens. But they are essentially printed out on paper. They are punched out with a 1-inch hole punch, which you can get on Amazon for like $8. You then put a 1-inch epoxy sticker on top of it, which gives it a clear domed top, and it's a sticker, an adhesive sticker, sticks right on it. That costs about $7 for 100. And then the bottom of them, you can either put a magnet, which is what I did here, which run about $7 for 50, or you can actually make them double-sided. So these guys are actually just, I left the back of them bare and then put paste on them and then stuck 2 of them together. So if you notice, these guys are actually, there are 6 skulls and 6 helms. It's just they are reversed on either side. So all these minis here, this set you're looking at right now is what, 6, 12, 13, 14. So that's 20 tokens that can cover pretty much any battle in D&D, really, especially if you're flexible about how you use the tokens. They don't always have to be a 5-foot token. You can put them in the center of 4 squares, and now they're large. Or you put them in the center and say, by the way, this is a huge creature. So you can make them, you can just draw on your battle map or whatever, say this is much bigger than it is. You don't have to really have large tokens. Lots of people like to have things where you can put a big token so that it's represented. I'm trying to play a little looser with this. So that's 20 tokens. They cost, if you had nothing at all other than a printer, it would cost you, I think, a total of like under $30. But you can also make many more tokens, including a bunch of cool character tokens, by either punching out like magic cards or printing nice color printing. One thing I did is I asked both my groups to send me portraits of their character, and then I made 1-inch ones, and as soon as I get a decent printer, I'm going to print them out and make nice tokens for them. Although they have minis already, so they probably are perfectly happy with the minis. They don't really need anything. But you can make minis really easily with this, and once you've invested in the $7 of the hole punch, you can make 100 tokens. 100 tokens is like $30. About 30 cents a token, which is like a tenth of what a miniature costs, right? You really, 10 of these for every mini. So anyway, I would use these almost all the times. Yeah, Roger Twee says, I like tokens, but I kind of like the ones that stand up a little better. Yeah, sure. And there's lots of other options. And that's the thing about this is like, I'm offering a solution that I like. I think it works. I'm experimenting a lot, and I'm thinking other people like them. But this is what I like to refer to as an intractable problem in D&D. There's no perfect solution for miniatures in D&D. There are only the solution that you find is the best, and hopefully you don't invest too much money in things that you realize isn't really that beneficial. He's Not Your Problem says, my players are very excited for the Hero Forge Kickstarter, even though I mostly use paper minis for printable heroes. It's nice. Yeah, I just bought a new printer, so I invested now another $70. In a color photo printer, and I want to try out some nice color photo printing and see about making. I might try printable heroes. I've always liked printable heroes, and they're cool, and you can kind of make them. So the one trick though, and this is where the lazy part of this gets in, is that my trick is when you have tokens like these generic tokens that I'm showing here, you don't spend a lot of time trying to find the right monsters for the battle that you're going to run. Like today, it wouldn't be so bad. And for boss fights, it's probably worth doing. But generally, your run-of-the-mill, like I don't know if I would bother making a lot of minis unless I was sure I was going to use them. And that's a real trick. So my friend Enrique Bertrand, the newbie DM, and I were talking about this. He's a big token maker. And his trick was to, let's see if I can pull up his... Newbie DM. This is his old one. He's got a new one. Changing the way you use tokens. This looks right. Yeah, so his approach is to... he makes generic numbered tokens in different colors. So he's got greens and reds and blacks, and that way he can have a lot of them. He then prints out one token that actually represents the monster. So you can see like he's got the albino dwarves here, and I don't know what the hell that thing is. That looks like a rat. But that way he has, he only has to make 2 tokens, and then he's got 10 of that kind of monster, right? And then his trick was to use tape and tape the back. But he has more recently learned the value of the 1-inch epoxy sticker, and now does that instead because it is super, super easy and super, super cheap, and it's better than all this taping and cutting and crap. And he knows it too. We've talked about it. So close, I accept your cookies. So, because you can see like he's got these rough edges around the outside. You won't have that with an epoxy sticker. They will look way better. So this is a neat approach too, and I kind of dig that you make one nice token and then you use generic tokens for everything else. That's kind of a neat way to do it. Although there's a little probably cognitive load in figuring out that monster and those things are the same, and that like you're always going to want to go after the one that looks like a thing, instead of just having the general tokens. So that's a way to go, and I kind of dig that. And I think but I asked him. So he said, I like my approach better, because everybody has an approach they like. He said, I like my approach better. And what I asked him was like, you made, because in here I think he talks about see how he made like Flaming Fist and Lizard Folk. He made a whole bunch of different ones for a whole bunch of different kinds of creatures. And I said, how many of those did you end up not using? And he said, most of them. So he made a lot of tokens he never actually put on the table. And that's my point, is like, I made 20, and all of those are going to see use. They're going to see use many, many times over many, many years. So it's worth making a token when you know you're going to use it. But if instead of trying to like build a collection, you're going to spend a lot of time on monsters that never see the light of day. He's Not Your Problem says, I do it as part of my DM prep. It doesn't take much time, and the paper minis I use are card stands that make them stand up. With printable heroes, you get 6 skeletons, a piece of photo paper, and then they keep in a good condition. Yeah, I'm sure it works. But it is prep time, right? And the one argument I'll make is, when you prep something, you want to use something. So if I make like two deep scions and 4 sea spawns, I probably would have used them by now. But B, I'm going to want to use them. Now, it's fine if I know the next fight, and we'll talk about boss fights here. If I know the next fight is going to use them, I would want to print them. So as an example, let's go to printable heroes. This is a very different show today. We're talking about tokens because I'm obsessed. And we'll type in, they don't have deep scions. They don't have sea spawns. So I'm sure they have these things. They have aboleths, right? So they have a cool aboleth, right? So I would say, okay, I know I'm going to have an aboleth, so I'm going to print an aboleth here, right? And I think if you click the thing, what do you get? Of course, I can't show it. Downloads. Man, I'm having all kinds of trouble. It's opening the PDF in my wrong browser window, so I can't seem to. There we go. So that's what it prints out for you, right? And you can cut it and then fold it. I guess this one, like, yeah. So like you pick your style and you say, this is the style I'm gonna pick. And that is how you would print it. And then you could just fold it and cut it and you're ready to go. So I could do an aboleth that way. And I could do tool. And I wish I would, right? Like, this is perfect. God, I wish I had a color printer. I would totally do this right now. Yeah, and he's got 4 different colors, right? So I could do, look at these. These are great. And I need 4 of them for the battle I'm about to run today, right? So I really could have used, and now I have a color printer, I might do something like this. So I would try this out. And I think printing them when you know you're going to use them, that's not so bad. But other than that, I don't know that I would print a whole bunch and keep them on hand. I think you'll end up spending a lot of time. And it probably takes, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes. And hell, I prep my whole game in 15 minutes. So that's a question. So in the meantime, I can use tokens. Today, I'm actually using something else. And if you look, you can see exactly what I'm using, which is I don't have 4 tools, right? I have thousands of miniatures, thousands. He's Not Your Problem says, yeah, you don't need numbers because you can use the color choice. So you say, I attack the gold one. It would have been perfect. So yeah, the printable heroes thing for the tools would have been great. And I wish I had done it. So here, I have to use a Neogi and an Ankh-Egg and a Kuthek to represent a freaking jewel because I don't have enough jewels. I wonder if I have more in my mini boxes. And there's the other thing. I got a lot of minis, so many that I've split them out into different groups. And I might have more jewels, but I don't know it because I have too many minis. So it gets to be a point where it's too many. So here is the battle layout that I am doing. I don't know if it shows it really. Yeah, there you can see the elevation of it, right? So they have the big room, and I'm not going to have these guys. These guys are all going to be buried in the mucky, slimy walls, right? There's going to be these mud-thick walls, and they're going to break out like membranes, and they're going to pop out once the group has made their way in. And I think we're just going to put another Kraken priest. I forgot that they had rescued the woman. So I think we're going to have another Kraken priest who's sort of like, Mr. Dory's silent partner, who is like the next human of this group. And, now that puts this challenge rating way higher than the group. Sorry, talking makes me thirsty. I should have muted. So what are we doing? So what's the strong start? Let's go back to our prep, right? And in our prep, our strong start is they go into Solgoth Sanctum. And in the Sanctum, they're going to fight 4 Chul, an Aboleth, and Evil John's going to make some Sly Flourish tokens. Yay! Hey, could one of you in chat, for the other folks that are here, post a link to my token page? I don't have it handy, and then I'd have to go dig, and it would take time. But if one of you had it, I would love to be able to put that in the chat here. 4 Chul, an Aboleth, and a Kraken Priest. I'm thinking, so we're going to do something else. So that's the fight, right? And environmental effects will be Slimy Waz, Slimy Cave, cliffs. Are there any other interesting terrain effects? Oh, huge water, right? Swirling water. So I'm going to give the Aboleth the equivalent of control water so that he can create this like typhoon that forces people out. It causes difficult terrain and people have to make athletics checks in order to get close to him because you got to protect your boss. So I think that, yeah, this is, you don't want to make it too denially, but this is like the equivalent of a boss fight. Now, one other trick, and I can't remember, I think we talked about it last week, but I have a new easy method. Just picked up the curated Arknight Clear Classic Mini. Yeah, the Arknight Minis are really, really good too. I endorsed them for a long time, and I still endorse them. The trick is it still has that problem of you never quite have the ones you need. So it's a good base set, and it's dirt cheap. Again, I think it's like 50 cents a mini or something like that. It's a really good price. So Von Karan, yeah, that's the link to all the equipment that you need to make these. So you need the 1-inch hole punch, you need the epoxy stickers, and you need the magnets. And you can see it's like $8, $7, and $8. The link I was looking for was the link to the actual sheet. And I can find it here real quick if I go to Twitter. Because I talked about it all the time on Twitter, which means all I have to do is go back to my own account and I'll find it. Because I think I talked about it yesterday. Here we go. That's the Amazon link. I keep going back. Here we are. That's the one. So that's the page that I made. And there's the PDF. So you can print that PDF, and that gives you all the tokens. They're already numbered. It's got the instructions right on there. It tells you what to buy, and it works really well. I bought Pathfinder Pawns based on Sly's suggestion from the last US trip. Yeah, so the Pathfinder Pawns are another way to get a lot of minis real quick. So those work too. I think having the tokens on, and this is the thing. Like, I'm not saying like throw all your minis. I'm not throwing my minis away. I love my minis. But it's nice to have the tokens on hand for every other battle that isn't a big deal. So, whenever you're improvising a battle, the tokens work really well for improvised fights. They also work well if you're traveling. So that can work. Anyway, so one other thing I've been obsessing about is an easier method to do challenge rating. And so we're going to talk about that real quick. I think we might have talked about it on this show. Somebody remind me if we talked about it on the show, and I'll be quick. But yeah, I'm sure we did, because we talked about the Chul. And so the question is, whenever, instead of worrying about building an easy, and this goes, Teos Abadia would yell at me, and that's cool. He's very smart, and he's worth listening to, and comparing our opinions and deciding for yourself. He believes that you should look at a battle and say, is this, build so many easy, medium, hard, and deadly fights, depending on the situation. Like in a day, a group can handle a few easies, a couple mediums, and hard. I don't think like that. I let the situation determine what monsters show up. And the only question I have is this going to kill him? Is this deadly? Am I going too far? And then, so then the baseline for figuring that out is a very simple equation. And that equation, which I will type out, it's one line, right? And the equation is compare the sum total of monster challenge ratings to half the sum total of character levels. Bingo. One line. It's 94 characters, and that replaces all of the rules you need for doing encounter balance. So in this case, Chuls, I believe, are challenge rating 4. Let's take a look. I'm pretty sure that's right. Chuls are challenge 4s. The Aboleth is a challenge challenge 10. And a Kraken Priest. I don't need the math to tell me that I am going way above and beyond. Kraken Priest is a challenge 5. So that's 15 plus 16, right? 4, 8, 12, 16 is 31. So my monster, the total monster total is 31. The characters, let's assume I have 6 and they're 7th level. 6 times 7 is whatever. Math. 48. I'm terrible. Let's go to the Google. 6 times 7 is 42. Half of 42 is 21. So I am 10 points higher than the monster CR allows, right? The character adjusted CR is 21, which means I am well into deadly territory. Heavy into deadly territory. So one thing I can do is like, am I going too far? Now I know this, so I've learned a valuable piece of information, which is that I'm well into deadly character. Now I will say though that 6 characters, level 7, and my group, they are a bunch of ass kickers. So they hammer out damage like crazy. Now, they don't take damage particularly well. And if I have the Aboleth enslave one of the characters and they start beating the crap out of everything else, that could be really bad. But I think we're okay. I think it's going to work out anyway. And all I have to do is keep my hands on the dials. And the dials I can keep my hands are one, not playing tactically perfect. So the Aboleth is super smart, but the Chuuls are not. So the Chuuls might make stupid mistakes. The other thing is I can put my hands on the Chuul dials. I think they have like 120 hit points. They have 93 hit points. So I can turn that dial down. They can have as few as 44 according to their own hit dice. So I can knock their health down to half if people start getting their asses kicked. And I can reduce their attacks and everything else. Again, playing non-optimally is fine. One thing I might do, though, is I might remove the Kraken Priest. The reason I had a Kraken Priest there was to kind of lure them into the room. But I don't think I'm going to. Although I need to lure them with something. An object? Like, what do they want? What could I put on that altar? If you look at that picture, right? If you look at my layout here. So, if we look at her and we're removing her from this platform, right? This is the platform that hangs up above the Aboleth. The Aboleth will not be there when they first show up. The Aboleth is going to be swimming down deep in that pool. What object could I put here that will lure the characters into the room? Now, this is a manipulative battle, right? I'm building a boss fight, and instead of doing my very typical, like, let the characters choose how they approach it and react, I'm like, I want them in this room because I don't want them hugging that stupid doorway, and I'm going to have 6 characters piled in this hall that are throwing fireball after fireball into the room and killing all the Chuul without anybody showing up, right? I don't want that to happen. So what I want is something that they desperately want or need to be on that altar. And I don't know what I could put there. One option is, so we adjusted our challenge rating. So now it's 5 less, right? So now it's only a 26 instead of a 31. So now it's closer to the adjusted, and they could probably do it. If I took out a Chuul, I'd be right on par, right? It'd be just on the edge of deadly. But this group can handle 4 Chuuls. So I think we're going to be fine with the 4 Chuuls and the Aboleth. So that'll work. I could throw a friendly. Well, so one of the players wasn't there. So what if I put one of the characters on the on the podium? What would that be like? I don't know. I might have to. I could ask one of the players if she would be cool with that. I might ask her. I might send her a text and ask her if she's cool with that. So I could do that. I could put one of the characters there, right? And she's standing there. The problem is, like, the most innocent creature, which I should have put there, was the one they've already rescued. So it's kind of a bummer. Is there anybody else? I could, like, one of the council members of Saltmarsh could be it. Do they have a crew member of their ship they like a lot? Let's just go skim through the NPCs and see if I can find anybody. Certainly not Zolek. So it could be I could take what's his name? Rephraim, because they haven't seen Rephraim in a while. So that's a possibility. People of Saltmarsh. I don't want to pull the sister in again. Metha, Iron, these are all vampire people now. So those aren't good. Crew members. Maybe a crew member? Maybe that, like, one of their, I could really dig deep and bring back, like, one of the characters, like Skeen, the pirate who was on the island. That's not bad. We could do Skeen. We'll do that. Skeen is on the Skeen is on the altar. So where's my strong start? Yeah. That way they can't just hit him. He'll die. Right? And he'll be enthralled. That's a good one. So somehow he got off the ship. He was grabbed up by sea spawn, dragged here, enthralled, and then now the character has been sucking his brain and has learned all about him. So an interesting thing would be what deal. So the Aboleth, like, let's look at it and say, what if it's not a fight? What if this is an opportunity for role playing? What could the Aboleth offer the characters that they might want? Eternal life. Could be one. Power. Rulership over Saltmarsh. Like, they could take these things, right? And it could, like, I can give this to you. You just have to become one with me. And that way there's a little bit of a role play thing, right? We're adding that in. Scenes, we're going to have Sogoth's Sanctum. So I've been talking a bunch of nonsense today. So one of the things we're going to have is when they are defeating. Oh, I forgot. There's one other thing we're doing with Sogoth, which is Sogoth is a priest. So he has all the statistics of a Aboleth, but also has priest statistics. So he's going to like come with a pre-built mixture of control water and spiritual guardians that's roaring around him. Add that in here. And a spirit weapon. And all of his other attacks. So he's got a lot of things going on, this guy. He's also going to have a bunch of hit points. Aboleths are actually pretty weak. See, they're CR10. They are a weak CR10. I've noticed. Like, they're a good enemy. But they're somewhat underpowered. They only have 135 hit points isn't bad, but they could have up to 210 because 18d10 plus 36 is like 200. I think that's like 216 or something like that. Math. Yeah, 180 plus 36. So he could have a lot of hit points, and we'll probably give him a lot of hit points. He doesn't have a legendary resistance. So we're going to give it to him. He should have legendary resistance. And he's got his tail swipes, and he could probably cast a spell as a legendary action, like a low-level spell as a legendary action, and he will be the equivalent of a priest. Is there a high priest? Stat block? I thought there were some higher level priests in Volo's guide, but maybe not. So we're going to give him that, and that'll be pretty good. He's got that psychic drain too. The other thing I do is you can add more legendary actions for every character above 2. So if there are 6 characters, you can 5 legendary actions instead of 3, and that way he scales a little bit better with more characters. There's another easy trick. So when he is getting destroyed, Sogoth is going to call out to the black whale. And the black whale is going to arrive and start destroying the Styes. And the characters are going to have to make a daring escape. I don't know what they're going to do. But the black whale is going to come, and he's going to start slamming his tail and throwing tentacles, and he's going to kill everybody that's remaining in the town. And the characters can go confront the whale if they so choose, or they can get the hell out of Dodge. We'll see what they do. Maybe they might go face him. It could be a dramatic day, because a lot of I think Bless might go charge it, and she's going to go out there at 7th level and fight the black whale, who is the whale is an agent of Tharizdun. Yes, the whale is an avatar of Tharizdun. It is the manifestation of Tharizdun's will in the world. And it is a warlock whale. I think it's a warlock whale. Yeah, it's a giant black whale that has all the spells of a warlock of the, whatever the evil warlock one is. And it's legendary. So I think there's a whale stat black. I should probably have is a killer whale? No, there's got to be a bigger giant whale. Am I using the giant shark? Is the whale the only monster? We'll probably use the Kraken. We'll use the Kraken stat block. That fits. That's a good avatar. CR23? Yeah, that's about right. And the lightning instead will be tentacle stuff. So they want to face it. They can. It's probably going to kick their ass. Warlock of the great old one. That's pretty tough. Yeah, but then, it's an avatar, right? So I'm just going to reskin a lot of this stuff as Warlock stuff. So the tentacle attacks will actually be ethereal tentacles, not not physical tentacles. The lightning storm will be like this, negative energy storm. So I'm just going to reskin the Kraken. And yeah, that looks formidable. 18 AC and 472 hit points. Maybe I'll grab my Kraken mini and bring it just in case. Just in case they decide to attack, we'll do that. So, yeah, here I am talking about minis, right? I'm going to bring it, but it's right upstairs. I know exactly where it is. I'm not spending a lot of time on it. So, yeah, they're going to destroy. I think the Styes is going to get destroyed. Very likely. And then I don't know where they're going to go. I don't know what's after that. So I know that we're going to begin probably the next adventure. But I tell you, between the big-ass battle at Sogoth Sanctum, the coming of the whale, and whatever they decide to do after that, that's going to be, my game is only 3 hours long, and that's as far as it's going to go. So, secrets. The whale is called the Black Death. Sogoth cares nothing for the people of the Styes. He can control it. What other? I don't really have a whole lot of secrets today. Like, what else? Because there's just going to be a big fight. Is there anything else Sogoth? Sogoth wants to, these are all Sogoth secrets, right? Sogoth is planning to turn the sea into an incubator. Incubator for Tharizdun. So, the hole in the Endless Nadir is getting bigger. There are more aboleths. So there are more aboleths, and they are so there's 2 more pods of 3 aboleths. I like the idea that the aboleths all do everything in 3. So they have 3 groups of 3 aboleths that all work as a quorum together. And his Sogoth's quorum was killed when he murdered the other 2 and became a priest of Tharizdun. So he's on his own. But the other 2 pods are out there, and they're trying to figure out what to do about the Endless Nadir as well. So they could potentially aid the characters, possibly. What the hell is... He probably got out of town. But another thing is they could meet Scarron. So Scarron... And he has a... Scarron, if I recall, I remember this from a previous one, has a soul bag. Scarron made a deal with Mother Nightshade. That works. Could Scarron be an Oni? Scarron is an Oni. He's a shapeshifter. That's crazy. Because Mother Nightshade actually has Oni agents that work for her. So there's a bunch of secrets and clues. I feel good about those. I feel good about the scenes that are going to take place. I like my battle here. I think that's going to be pretty badass. It's going to be hard. I'll have to replace this mini. I got to remember to replace this mini with a dude. That's their man Skeen. That'll be kind of fun. They'll probably just give him up. Be like, screw that guy. Hit him with a lightning bolt. And NPCs, I'm good. Treasure, I gave the wand to the War Mage. I was going to give an apparatus a Qualish, but I don't think so. And I think they're all pretty well set on magic items. I don't think I'm going to worry about many magic items at this point. I did talk about point buy and counter building. Look at that. Remember I did that last time. Only it was longer. I like compare the sum total of monster challenge ratings to half the sum total of the monster levels. Wow, that's so easy. Isn't that easy? It's so much easier than everything else. So once this battle is done and they're out of the Styes, it's off to the final confrontation, which is going to be down in the Endless Nadir. And that's going to be, I'm going to be stealing from the back of the book. There's a bunch of maps in the back of the book, and I'm going to be stealing from the Tamarot's Fate adventure. And they definitely have to have a battle against pirates. So I think that we're going to have a good sea battle, and that'll be fun. He's not your problem. Says, can't wait to find out what Zolek's been up to while the party's been away in Saltmarsh. That's a good question. What has Zolek been up to? I think he's probably been pretty quiet. Like, he's been kind of obsessing about the tomb beneath and probably researching it, right? He's been obsessed with the Tomb of Horrors, which lies beneath his tower. I think that's the main thing. And he might say, like, the rumor is that this tomb or tombs like it exist on many worlds. Like, he'll have researched it, and he'll know that there's like an arch-lich whose spirit who exists across multiple planes, and we'll tie back to threads of Tomb of Annihilation, right? We'll tie into that he'll be sort of, and maybe he's getting a little crazier, right? Like, he's a little unkempt because he's obsessed with, obsessed with the tower, and that gives them an advantage against him because he's not thinking about the fact that they might try to take him out. So that'll be fun. That'll be fun too. What else? I don't know. So I feel pretty good about today's game. I think it'll be solid. I don't know. It's nice to pull out the Dwarven Forge. I built this whole thing, and I've been sitting on it for a few weeks, so it's kind of fun to do the thing. And yeah, and I think the philosophy that I adhere to myself, is adhere a word? I don't know. Yeah, I think adhere is a word. Is that most of the time, 90% of the time, I try to develop situations and let the characters navigate the situations. And that's why they had such an easy time killing Mr. Dories. He wasn't ready for him. They walked right up to his front door, knocked on the door. He brought him in. He turned into a creep, and they killed him. And, so that's no boss fight there. I did have him turn into a giant octopus, but that was cool and not out of character. So you can do things like that. And then I did throw, 50 dudes at him. But that's really sort of the situation that's going on. And then only in boss fights, and how often do we do a boss fight? We probably do a boss fight every 3 to 4 sessions, maybe at best. That's probably about right. And that's when it's nice to like whip out the good stuff, get out the printable map, get all tactically, and find the nice miniatures, really build a kind of a fun boss battle. I think boss battles are good and cool and important, and I think that's when it is really nice to sort of bring out the stuff. There could be other times, like if you have a dungeon and you want people to kind of explore the dungeon room by room. I think that could be a lot of fun, particularly if you have the time to set it up. I like to set up big table-sized Dwarven Forge things on occasion, but it's pretty rare, and it's okay. I don't need to do it all the time. And otherwise, I really dig the tokens. It's like just keep some tools on hand. Keep some tools on hand to always be ready. When a battle does happen, right? And I think that can work really well. And that's why I like tools that are really flexible. I love the Paizo basic flip mat and a dry erase marker because you can do anything with that. I love these tokens because they can represent, just about anything. These could be, 3 rats in a tiny cave, three giant rats in a cave at level 1, or this could be, 2 Lich princes and their 6 Death Knight bodyguards, for against 6 level 20 characters. That would work. That's probably above the, half character level threshold. But I wonder if you could probably wipe out a group of level 20s if you had 2 Liches and 6 Death Knights. That's pretty badass. But you can do it with that thing. There was one other, since I got a little bit of time, since I started a little late, another topic I think is an interesting topic of conversation. Came up when Dyson logos, our hero, Dyson. I just wanted to go to the blog. He brought up something really interesting. He said, where is it? Frank Menzer's dungeon, right? So he said that Frank Menzer, the guy who wrote the D&D basic, the BECMI stuff, basic, expert, champion, master, and immortal box set, that he had. He talked about the importance, and he doesn't. I would love if he had a reference to this. I might have to ask him if he could reference where he got this from. But he said that Frank Menzer had a generic map that he kept on hand, and that he said that he was cool with Dyson redrawing the map, and this was the map that he said. And so Menzer said that having this map on hand, that he ran, what did he say? He used it more than 30 times in different. He used it over 30 times in like one-shot games and stuff like that. And he just kept this one map on hand. And I thought that is such a powerful, crazy, lazy DM idea that in your kit, you have one map and you just keep that map on hand. And, if you ever are stuck, pull out that map and work it. Now that's something that we had, that I built the Lazy Dungeon Master workbook around, which I happen to have right here. That in the Lazy DM workbook, and the idea is that you keep the workbook on hand. Like it's a thin book. I like to get it spiral bound so that you can fold it around. And in the book, in the back are 10 generic location maps. And those included, these are that I call the lazy lairs, right? And the lazy lairs include castle, docks, sewers, catacombs, caves, cellars, dungeon, mines, temple, and wizard's tower, right? And there's your caves, there's your castle, docks, and this works perfectly. Like I could have used this easily in the Saltmarsh game or in the Styes. Sewers, whenever you need generic sewers. Catacombs for, underground crypts and whatnot. Generic caves, great caves. Look at these. Cellars, which is sort of a mixture of natural and unnatural. This one is a really good universal one. I think you could use this with a lot. Dungeon, mines, temples, wizard's tower. So a really good selection of general maps. And the idea was, that you can you keep these maps on hand, you have them ready, and whenever you need one, you can just pull one out. And I still think that works out. The idea, though, is what if you only had one, right? And I think if I had to pick one of these, this Cellar's map I like a lot. And the reason I like the Cellar map is it's got a mixture of worked stone areas and natural caverns. So it's got like a natural cavern here, but like worked stone here. You could easily replace these with like, here's a dungeon and a meeting hall. You could reskin this into lots of different things. So this map is I'm real happy with this one. I would probably, if I had to pick one from the Lazy DM workbook, I'd probably pick this one. But a couple others, and I wrote a Sly Flourish article about this. I'll probably post it next week. What other maps work really well? And there were a couple that Dyson did. Caves of Chaos. So the Caves of Chaos was one that people, when I asked about this on Twitter, people brought that one up. And man, this is some high res stuff here. This is probably on the order of too big, right? This one's got a lot going on. But you could kind of make, it's again, a mixture of workstone and caves. It's got, all kinds of stuff here. So this is a pretty good one. And, it's got a lot going on. So it would be hard pressed to pick this one. The other one that I recommend, and the nice thing about this one, is the map for Vault of the Dracolich. This is an adventure that Teos Abadia and Scott Gray and myself wrote back in the D&D Next era. But the fun bit is it's one of the maps included in the Dungeon Master's Guide. And it's my fave. The Dungeon Master's Guide has a lot of good maps in the back. This one's, I don't know what this one is from, but that one's pretty good. This is the Vault of the Dracolich map. Although it's oriented in a funny orientation. It's oriented sideways from the way that we did it. But it's got underground waterways. It's got caves. It's got a big, here's a good lair. Lots of good places. These are the Dragon's Vaults back here. It's got a whole troglodyte village up here. It's got an evil altar here. It's got a dungeon here. So it has, all of the, one map sort of has all of the things in it. And each map has sort of unique things going on. Laboratory stuff. This is the, here's the treasure hoard area. The Hydra lair, this is where the ropers grab you as you go in. So you can use this, ancient broken monolith sitting off to the side. A draconic statue with a bunch of guardian statues. So you could take this map and you can sort of cleave off sections and say, all these doors out here, they're closed and we're just using the temple area, right? Or just this one wing over here. You could take, this wing over here and say we're just using that one for the bestial ground. We're just using this area down here for the underground caves. We're just using this area here. All you do is wall up the doors in your mind, and you have 7 or 8 dungeons that you can build right out of this. And then you just orient it differently, and you have a whole different map. So, people won't really recognize that you're using the same map over again. I like this one because I know it, because I wrote it. Scott Gray and Teos and I designed this thing. And, it works really well. So some of my criteria for having a good universal map is, I want one that's got a mixture of worked stone and natural stone. It's got to have some, if you're going to make it universal, it should have symmetry in some areas and asymmetry in other areas. There's a couple of good, Jacquet-isms to map. Jacquet is a designer of D&D material. And she made a whole bunch of maps back in the early days. I forget what her first name is. So she had a lot of philosophies on how you do maps. It's got to have loops. It's got to have multiple entrances. It's got to have, different paths to get to different places. It's got to be asymmetrical, multiple entrances. If you notice, this place has 1, 2, 3. This was actually written for an epic. So it was written to have the group start at a bunch of different entrances. And I think we had 8. 1, 2... 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 entrances. So you could have, 6 different groups coming in from different places, and you could have them all meet in the middle for an epic. But it turns out that map is really good. And again, this is in the Dungeon Master's Guide, this map right here. So if you have your Dungeon Master's Guide, you have my favorite map already on hand. And then there's some other good, some good ones. So probably the maps in the back of the DMG are your most accessible maps, on the assumption you carry around a DMG. But you probably have a DMG somewhere, right? And if you have the D&D Beyond one, obviously you can go to the map section of the DMG, and you've got the map. You've got a nice high res version. Look, they give you a nice high res version of this map. Look, it's got a symbol to ball. So you've got your sort of generic map. So I just love that idea. I love these lazy tricks, and I'm getting better at them. The lazier I get, I'll probably have to write another book. And, that idea of encounter balances, compare the monster challenge, sum total monster and challenge ratings to the half the sum total of the character levels. Super easy rule of thumb that gives you a general idea about encounter building. Also, having one map that is your map in your kit, and then you just sort of reuse that map. Really good lazy trick. How to run any number of monsters against the characters, just by assuming 1/4 of them hit. Count, use their hit points, count up. Every time it takes an amount of damage that would kill a creature, remove a creature, and assume that 1/4 hit or save. Bang. You can run 1,000 skeletons against your characters. I love these little tricks that we can just keep in our heads, that we can throw into a file folder. Just a little thing that we keep, and then we're running our games. Those tokens, another one. wherever they went. Little tokens that we can use to represent just about any battle. Dry erase flip mat, dry erase flip mat, and dry erase marker. Great tools just to make our lives easier, because DMing is hard, and we don't need to make it harder on ourselves. It doesn't need to be, we really want to sort of like streamline the process as much as we can so we can focus on really awesome stories. That's my goal. That's what I try to do here. So I think it is time to pack all my stuff and head off to my game. So I want to thank everybody today for coming in the chat. I appreciate you all coming around. Thanks for all the links. And we will see how things go next week. I'll be like, oh my God, they were all killed by the Black Death. It was terrible. But we will see. And, so have a good time. Get out there, play some Dungeons and Dragons, and have fun with your friends and loved ones. Have a great week.